Okay, I'm continuing my reading. What I'm doing in this series is to read through the entire standard works of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This consists of the Bible, the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price. I am reading in a chronological order of events, not according to publication or volume, so I will be skipping around a little bit as I move along. You will also note that my son is here with me. Say hi. Wave. Say hi. Say hi. This is my son Nathaniel. He wanted to be on camera for a few moments. Okay. Now that you've been on camera, I'm going to set you down so I can do my reading. Okay. I am now in the book of Samuel still. I'm returning to the first book of Samuel. This is chapter 4. Now, recall briefly that the first 3 chapters are about Saul's childhood as he's growing up. He is now an adult. He is now a grown man. During that time, Samson was judging Israel. We just finished the story of Samson in Judges chapter 16. We have, he just destroyed the temple, killed 3,000 Philistines, and the 5 lords of the Philistines, basically the 5 kings of the 5 cities. That has just happened. And now we're going in to read more about more in the book of Samuel. So right here, chapter 4. Israelites smitten and defeated by Philistines, who also captured the ark of God. Eli's son slain. He dies in an accident, and his daughter-in-law dies in childbirth. So if you'll recall the story of Eli, of course, he was the high priest. His sons were priests, but they were very wicked, and they were basically forcing women to sleep with them when they came to the tabernacle, and they were taking the best portions from the offerings and everything. Made people not want to come to the tabernacle. And so God rejected him and gave him the prophecy that his entire family would die in one day. So we're going to read about that now. And the word of Samuel came to all Israel. Now Israel went out against the Philistines to battle and pitched beside Ebenezer. And the Philistines pitched in Aphek. And the Philistines put themselves in array against Israel. And when they joined battle, Israel was smitten by the Philistines. And they slew of the army in the field about 4,000 men. Now remember, let's just set the scene a little bit again. Samson has just destroyed the temple in Gaza. I think it was in Gaza, but he destroyed the temple, killing 3,000 Philistines. The Philistines, it actually says that Israel went out to battle. Where was it? Israel initiating the attack, or was the Philistine army coming out and Israel just went out to meet them? It's not made clear, so it could be that Israel heard about the destruction that Samson caused, and they thought, hey, this is a prime opportunity to try and break the power of the Philistines. On the other hand, it could be the Philistines coming into Israel to seek revenge for what Samson had done. You'll also recall Samson was of the tribe of Dan. He would have been in the west, just north of the Philistine lands. The tabernacle is in Shiloh, which is in Ephraim, near the Jordan River, in the central part of Israel. So that's where we're at here. They go to war with the Philistines, and the Philistines soundly beat them, kill 4,000 men of Israel. Verse 3. And when the people were come into the camp, the elders of Israel said, Wherefore hath the Lord smitten us today before the Philistines? Let us fetch the ark of the covenant of the Lord out of Shiloh unto us, that when it cometh among us, it may save us out of the hand of our enemies. So the people sent to Shiloh, that they might bring from thence the ark of the covenant of the Lord of hosts, which dwelleth between the cherubims. And the 2 sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were there with the ark of the covenant of God. And when the ark of the covenant of the Lord came into the camp, all Israel shouted with a great shout, so that the earth rang again. And when the Philistines heard the noise of the shout, they said, What meaneth the noise of this great shout in the camp of the Hebrews? And they understood that the ark of the Lord was come into the camp, and the Philistines were afraid, for they said, God is come into the camp. And they said, Woe unto us, for there hath not been such a thing heretofore. Woe unto us! Who shall deliver us out of the hand of these mighty gods? These are the gods that smote the Egyptians with all the plagues in the wilderness. Be strong, and quit yourselves like men, O ye Philistines, that ye be not servants unto the Hebrews, as they have been to you. Quit yourselves like men, and fight. I like this from the Philistines, quite honestly. This makes you kind of admire the Philistines. So they just beat the Israelites, and the Israelites think, well, God wasn't with us. We better get the ark. That'll put God with us, because they're thinking like idol worshippers. They're thinking of the ark like it was an idol, and God will be with them if the ark is with them. Because that's how, a lot of it would have been, bring your idols with you into battle, and that way the God that you worship was with you. And the Philistines, they see, well, first of all, they bring the ark, and Hophni and Phinehas, the sons of Eli, are the two that bring it because they're the priests. They're the only ones authorized to even touch the handles. Nobody's allowed to touch the ark itself, but they're allowed to touch the handles that they carry the ark with. The Philistines, the Israelites cheer the coming of the ark. The Philistines see it, and they are scared. So remember what they did to Egypt. I mean, that was like 300 years earlier. And yet it's still in the mind of all these people what God did for Israel 300 years earlier. And the Philistines are scared, saying, wait a minute, we can't fight these gods. And yet, I love that. Be strong and quit yourselves like men. We may not be able to win, but we are going to go down fighting. Now, the Philistines weren't righteous people. They were a wicked, idolatrous culture. They were not good. I mean, there's a reason why being an uncultured person in the modern day is being referred to as a Philistine. They were not all that. They just weren't a great society. But I have to admire this. Let us continue. Verse 10. And the Philistines fought, and Israel was smitten. And they fled every man into his tent, and there was a great slaughter. For there fell of Israel 30,000 footmen. And the ark of God was taken, and the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were slain. Israel loses again, because, again, they brought the ark as a kind of idol. Rather than putting faith in God, they thought, if we have this physical symbol with us, that'll be enough. If we have our idol with us, that'll be enough. And they still lost because they did not have faith. The ark is captured. Eli's two sons are killed. Now, we continue verse 12. And there ran a man of Benjamin out of the army, and came to Shiloh the same day, with his clothes rent, and with earth upon his head. And when he came, lo, Eli sat upon a seat by the wayside, watching, for his heart trembled for the ark of God. And when the man came into the city and told it, all the city cried out. And when Eli heard the noise of the crying, he said, What meaneth the noise of this tumult? And the man came in hastily and told Eli. Now Eli was 98 years old, and his eyes were dim that he could not see. And the man said unto Eli, I am he that came out of the army, and I fled today out of the army. And he said, What is there done, my son? And the messenger answered and said, Israel is fled before the Philistines, and there hath been also a great slaughter among the people. And thy two sons also, Hophni and Phinehas, are dead, and the ark of God is taken. And it came to pass, when he made mention of the ark of God, that he fell from off the seat backward by the side of the gate. And his neck brake, and he died, for he was an old man and heavy, and he had judged Israel 40 years. So I find it interesting that it's the ark that Eli is most concerned about, not his sons. Because he knew that his sons were probably going to die. They were wicked men. God had already told him it wasn't. He was resigned to the judgment of God that his family was going to be killed in one day. But he hoped that the ark would not be lost at the same time. Eli himself was a righteous man, but he let his sons be wicked. And we see the judgments of God on him for that. And he says it was 98 years old. He judged Israel for 40 years, which means he was probably a judge in Ephraim. Well, he was the high priest. This actually indicates that the high priest is always a judge. And that he was probably high priest for 40 years. So he became high priest when he was 58. In other words, he became high priest about the same time that Samson was born. Because Samson judged for 20 years and he became a judge, well, probably around about the time he was 30 years old. So he became a judge when Samson was a boy. Verse 19, and his daughter-in-law, Phinehas' wife, was with child, near to be delivered. And when she heard the tidings that the ark of God was taken, and that her father-in-law and her husband were dead, she bowed herself and travailed, for her pains came upon her. And about the time of her death, the women that stood by her said unto her, Fear not, for thou hast borne a son. But she answered not, neither did she regard it. And she named the child Ichabod, saying, The glory is departed from Israel, because the ark of God was taken, and because of her father-in-law and her husband. And she said, The glory is departed from Israel, for the ark of God is taken. Now, Ichabod means, where is the glory? So let us just do a brief recap here of what happened. They went to battle, they got beat. They went to battle again, this time taking the ark as a kind of idol, thinking it would protect them. They got beat again. The two sons of Eli are killed. When the messenger comes back to tell them about it, Eli asks about the ark of God. When he realizes the ark of God is lost, in shock, he falls backwards off his chair, breaks his neck, dies instantly. The news of this is brought to his daughter-in-law, Phinehas' wife, who goes into a premature labor. She was near the end of her term anyways, but the shock throws her into a premature labor, and she dies in childbirth, but not before naming her son. I do have to wonder, we do know that Phinehas and Hophni were both sleeping with all the women at the temple, so they weren't just committing, fornications, but actual adultery. They were guilty of sins that should have brought the execution, should have brought the death penalty. So that is the end of the family of Eli. And like I said, I think it happened very shortly after Samson was killed. Now, I do have to amend that just a little bit. I have to say, it could have happened just before Samson killed the 3,000. Because it could have happened like this, is that it could have happened that they captured Samson. Remember, Samson was in prison for a long time. When I say a long time, I don't think he was there for 10, 15 years. He was there for probably about a year or a little over. Well, he was there long enough for his hair to grow a little bit long. I mean, this is my hair after 6 months. So you're talking at least a year, maybe 2. What if this attack on Israel was because Samson was in prison? The Philistines thought that they could easily attack Israel. And now that they have won, they go to celebrate, and that's when Samson collapses the temple. We don't really know exactly how these events line up. So if the Samson's death came before this attack, then most likely this attack was in response to Samson's death. On the other hand, it could be that Samson's death, the celebration that they were having, was in response to their victory at this battle. So we don't know exactly how that lines up. But anyways, I will leave that one here, and we will see you in the next one.